Hello there BookTube, how are you all doing? Today I've got, I suppose, more of a weekend update rather than a Friday Reads video. For some reason my schedule has just gone all out of whack this week. Yeah, I thought I'd give you an update on what I'm reading. Predominantly I want to talk about The Hare with Amber Eyes by Edmund de Waal. It's a book I finished this week and it's part of the Reading Europe 2021 challenge that I'm participating in. And yeah, this was a great read, so I'll be talking about that for a bit, and then I'll talk about other books I've been reading. But I've also got yet another second-hand book haul of shame, and I'd say that not necessarily because collecting books is necessarily something to feel shame about, but for me, I'm about to be moving. And the idea that I'm just adding more weight to the boxes, and I mean these bookcases are bursting, so just knowing that in the new house we're going to need so many more bookcases probably. That's kind of where the shame comes in. Yeah, I'll get more into that later, I guess. But for now, going to talk about The Hare with Amber Eyes. So this book is a kind of a family history memoir, and really that the main focus of the book are these 264 wood and ivory netsuke. Now these are sort of tiny Japanese sort of ornaments, is the best way I can think of describing them. You know, the little figurines and still lifes that you can pick up and play with in your fingers. They're supposed to be quite tactile, and you rub away at them and you put them in your pocket as you go out for a walk and stuff like that. So they're very intimate, everyday objects that today are actually quite valuable, but originally they weren't necessarily thought so, or at least not valuable in a monetary sense. And the book begins with Edmund remembering a time when he was in Japan with his great uncle Iggy, who worked out there, and he had this collection of netsuke. And eventually, when Iggy dies, they're passed on to Edmund. And Edmund is really using, well, you can see it two ways. Either it's Edmund using the family history to find out more about the netsuke, or it could be the other way around, that he's using the history of the netsuke to uncover things about his family. And really I suppose it's both at once, that and that connection between sort of memory, history and physical objects is something that is maybe the thesis of the book, is what kind of binds it all together. And he starts off in the mid 1800s in Paris with Charles Ephrussi, and Charles, I believe, is Edmund's great uncle, or great uncle, I think. Anyway, a relation in the past. And this guy, he's the third son, and the family run this massive pan-European bank, and they're very wealthy, very well-to-do. They have a massive house in Vienna, massive house in Paris, massive house back kind of at the family HQ back in Odessa. Charles, third son, he's not expected to work for the bank. So he's very much living for himself and just following his own desires and his own interests. And what he loves is, one is just vagabonding, as he calls it, just going around Europe, and he starts collecting artifacts and art, and that kind of becomes his calling. He loves art, and he becomes a fairly well respected art critic back in Paris as he grows older. He ends up supporting many of the early Impressionist painters like Manet and Renoir. He even turns up in the background of a Renoir painting, and certain writers as well. He takes them under his arm, such as Jules Leforgue and Marcel Proust. And in fact, actually, I only found this out through the book, that Charles Ephrussi is potentially the inspiration for Charles Swann in Remembrance of Things Past. And actually the book's epigraph is actually a segment from Remembrance of Things Past, and it's Charles Swann speaking, and it goes like this. Even when one is no longer attached to things, it's still something to have been attached to them, because it was always for reasons which other people didn't grasp. Well, now that I'm a little too weary to live with other people, these old feelings, so personal and individual, that I had in the past, seem to me, it's the mania of collectors, very precious. I open my heart to myself like a sort of vitrine, and examine one by one all those love affairs of which the world can know nothing, and of this collection to which I am now much more attached than to my others, I say to myself, rather as Mazarin said of his books, but in fact without the least distress, that it would be very tiresome to have to leave them all. Now my country in the Reading Europe 2021 challenge was Austria, and most of this book is set in Austria because the Netsuki go on to another branch of the family. Charles passes them on as a wedding gift to someone else in the family, and they end up in Vienna, and they stay there from, I don't know, maybe 1899 all the way through to the Second World War, and so that's really quite a long breathing space where we're really getting to know the family, more of the dynamics of the family really, but also we're seeing a rising wave of anti-Semitism. We get a bit of it in Paris, and then it just keeps rising and rising in Vienna and culminating in the Second World War. Now the Ephrussi family are a Jewish family, and since they're fairly wealthy, their wealth is from owning a bank, and so as you can imagine, they are really targets for anti-Semitism. They're the targets for stereotypes and just so much really awful stuff. And it's seeing that this family, and all of them in different ways, they love art, whether it's literature, whether it's painting or opera or whatever, and they love objects, they love collecting in various ways. And it's seeing that when things get tough, how the significance of certain objects change. And I won't go into too much detail about that, but there's a point as we're getting towards the end of the book where you're realising that these Netsuki, which had been kind of overlooked once they'd got to Vienna, they were just part of the family collection, and then by the 1940s they seem so precious for the family, and it's really moving and really beautiful, or at least I found it so. And again, just this idea that of things, physical objects, being like memories and vice versa, it seems to be the central kind of underpinning of the book. I'll read you a bit from the end, and it won't really spoil anything, but I think if you do decide to read it, once you get to this bit, it will take on an entirely different light. It is not just things that carry stories with them. Stories are a kind of thing too. Stories and objects share something, a patina. I thought I had this clear 2 years ago before I started, but I'm no longer sure how this works. Perhaps patina is a process of rubbing back so that the essential is revealed, the way that a striated stone tumbled in a river feels irreducible, the way that this Netsuki of a fox has become little more than a memory of a nose and a tail. But it also seems additive, in the way that a piece of oak furniture gains over years and years of polishing, and the way that leaves of my meddler shine. You take an object from your pockets and put it down in front of you, and you begin to tell a story. It's just really lovely how these objects for him are just a way of him being able to connect to his past, but there comes a point where he has to draw a line, and he can't look any further, he can't speculate any more about the past, and that he has to just pass them on and let the story move on into the present and into the future with him and his children. I'm not sure if that made too much sense. There are just some of my reflections on the Hare with amber eyes, and although I was coming into it just trying to understand Austria and particularly Vienna a little better, I came out with so much more. It's really a beautiful book about just appreciating objects, appreciating family, and just gave me, I suppose, a different perspective to history and how we relate to it. So if any of you are familiar with the Euros and the football that's going on at the moment, you might have noticed that Austria were recently beaten by the Netherlands, and I was allocated the country Austria, and essentially if your team is beaten by another team, you have to read something from or about that country. And this kind of merges with my book Hall of Shame, because one of the books I'd picked up was The Diary of Anne Frank, and it's one of those classics I'd never read, and so since I'd recently picked it up and the Netherlands beat me in the football, or beat Austria in the football, yeah, I thought I'd read it, and I started it only yesterday, 70 pages in, and it shouldn't take me very long, but I'm really enjoying it, it's been really good so far. Again, quite moving, but also, yeah, there are things in here that are really actually quite delightful, just the fact that that there are points where she just has such a great sense of humour and stuff like that. It's really great and really touching. So I'm reading that at the moment. I'm also still reading the Iliad. I've kind of let it go a bit this week, mainly just because the last week or so has been sort of busy in loads of different ways. But hopefully, tonight and tomorrow I might be able to get more of this read. And the same goes as well for Comet, which is the Sylvia Plath biography that I've been reading. It's my project for the summer to try and get through this, hopefully by the end of August. But as you can see, I'm only about there. If you can see where the bookmark is, I'm going through very slowly, so maybe that won't happen, or maybe I'll just speed up with it and give it more time. I might have only touched this once in the past week, unfortunately. So again, maybe tonight and tomorrow I'll be able to spend some more time with it as well. And that's it for what I'm reading at the moment. So I'll try and very quickly just go through my book Hall of Shame. Now, I kind of want to add, I know some people, they seem to buy books for essentially quite intentionally for their TBR, which I find really impressive. I wish I could be that organised, I guess. Whereas for me, when I buy books, I really see it that I'm just slowly building a library, and some books I buy I might want to get to right away. Other books I'm happy to leave on the shelf for ages, maybe not even touch it for years, and sometimes if it just doesn't seem right, I might even pass it on without reading it, but it does depend on the book. And that's definitely the case with many of these books here. There might be a few that I might want to get to soon, or maybe just dip in and out of, but many of them I just got them because I saw them second hand, or a couple of them for free, and I thought that if they're on the shelf, I know they're there when I want to get to them. So the first of these, I found this free in a phone box. So over here in the UK, phone boxes are slowly transforming into little free libraries. mainly because no one really uses phone boxes anymore. And so, yeah, one book I got from these was The Penguin, Dorothy Parker. Never read any Dorothy Parker, but I had a quick look inside and she seems quite witty, very amusing. A slightly immature part of me wants to put a little comma here, so it's The Penguin, Dorothy Parker, which would be quite cool if there was a writing penguin, but anyway, that's that. And then again from the phone box, the little free library is Foucault's Aesthetics, Michael and Michel Foucault. I've read a couple of his articles, particularly the one on the Panopticon, and I find him quite fascinating. And so I thought I'd just pick this up when I'm in the mood for something like that, or if it's relevant to something else I might be able to use it for reference. And then this next one was a gift from my sister. She saw it in a second-hand stall, and that's a biography of Thomas Hardy by Norman Page. I think this was published in the late 70s, and it's very much just very quick, snappy, his life and his works. And then yeah, I think all of the rest of these are from different second-hand shops. It's just, yeah, I don't know, my second-hand shopping has maybe got a bit out of hand. Might need to rein back in the coming months. This first one is one I do want to try and get to soon, and that's Weather by Jenny Orfil. And I think I saw this book mentioned on Mark Nash's channel recently at some point. And to be honest, I just recognised the cover and I read the synopsis and it sounded witty and fun and a bit different. And so I thought I'd give it a go. It's very short and it's, I'll show you inside, it's kind of broken up into these little sections, these little segments like that. And I thought, yeah, that might be interesting and it might be quite manageable to get through fairly quickly. So I don't know when, but hopefully quite soon I'll try to read Weather by Jenny Orfil. And then there's a fairly big collection of books I found that are really just there for when I'm in the mood to get to them. So the first of these is Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell, famous book. I've actually heard kind of mixed things about it. I think it's probably going to be up my alley. And yeah, I've never read it, I've always been intrigued by it, so I thought, found it in a second-hand shop, and now it's going to be on the shelf for when I want it. And then it's very similar actually. I've always wanted to read some Cormac McCarthy, but never have. I found The Road, and again, it's going to be on the shelf for when I want it. It seems to be, whenever I'm in a bookshop, I always go over to Cormac McCarthy and pick up a couple of books, and I'm always like, will I buy it or won't I? And then I just find something that I want more and don't want to spend up too much money, particularly if it's new, and so I end up getting something else instead. But yeah, I'm not sure whether this will be the first McCarthy book I read, depending if I find something else first. But at least now I know I've got it on the shelf if I'm in the mood. And then the next is a book by Emile Zola. Was it The Paradise? And this sounds quite fun. Again, witty, maybe quite springy. I don't know. But a few of his stories are in this little collection of French short stories that I've been dipping in and out of recently. And I've been wanting to build up a larger collection of French literature, and so I'm slowly doing that, and hopefully I'll enjoy this. And then again, another book where I'm not sure if it'll be the first book by this author that I'll read, but I'm just getting this provisionally just in case I'm in the mood for the author and I want to read it. And so that's Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Love in the Time of Cholera. I'm not sure if this will be the best Marquez to start with, don't know for sure. I think Brian at Bookish recently made a video of like where not to start with Marquez, and I think this might have been where not to start, or one of them. I'm not completely sure, but if I don't have any other of his books by the time I'm sort of in the mood, or there's a gap in my reading schedule and I want to fill it, I might just choose this anyway, but we'll see how it goes. And then in my ever-growing library there is an ever-growing collection of Franz Kafka, and this is just the Metamorphosis by itself, with a little sort of essay at the end by Karl Brand, and yeah, I've read some of Kafka's short stories. Now I've got some of his novels, and now I've got sort of the Metamorphosis by itself. A very slim little book that I can, yeah, I don't know when I'll read this, but it'll be very manageable. I might read it in a day. One thing I don't like about this edition is that the title is the wrong way round on the spine, so that'll look really, at least to me, really awkward on the bookcase. But it's got some really cool, weird illustrations, almost like some kind of, yeah, I don't know, like a woodblock print. But yeah, I thought they were quite cool as well. So that's the Metamorphosis, and then just to finish things off, yet another author that I've wanted to read for quite some time and just never got around to. That's Donna Tartt, and I found The Goldfinch. I think this only cost me 30p from a second-hand shop, and it's like a massive hardback, pretty heavy. You could do some damage with this book, I think. You know, if there were burglars or something in the house, I'd reach to this. And but yeah, never read any Donna Tartt, yeah, if I'm feeling like it, I have this on the shelves. So yeah, we'll see. So there we go. There are the books that are going to be making my boxes even heavier when I move house. I think before I move house, I'm going to try and do a rough sort of bookshelf tour of the chaos you can see behind me, and then once I'm settled into a new place, yeah, I'll do a bookshelf tour of what it looks like in the new place. Yeah, I was chatting to my wife, and we're quite excited to reorganise the books and see what we can do with them. But for now, that's everything. Yeah, please let me know what you thought, particularly with those books that I haven't read. If you've read them and have any opinions or anything you think I should know, please, yeah, go for it. Let me know. As ever, any recommendations or anything like that, please, yeah, feel free to talk about that too. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope you at least enjoyed this a little bit, and I'm sure I'll see you here on BookTube sometime soon. Alright, take care, bye bye.